quality education, healthcare. You already have a legacy of healthcare in our part of the world. Healthcare is, again, when Manoj Jha ji says people-to-people contact, what is the biggest contact? Healthcare. Healthcare can shake and move wonders in this world. Healthcare is something you should look at. Tourism is something you should look at, because tourism is not only about building hospital, sustainable tourism is something you should look at. Energy, climate change, we all worry about climate change. We are rich in resources, but we do not want to engage in mining. We do not want to engage in coal mining, limestone mining. We do not want to deplete our resources, our nature. So how about looking at green energy? Green energy is something because, again, while Northeast is rich in its rivers, we are bound by only a chicken's neck. Again, someone from Sikkim would be able to let you understand that. It's a chicken's neck. And while we are resource rich, we need clean energy. Our transmission lines don't come when there is an avalanche, or when there is an earthquake, or there is a landslide, there rains, storms. We don't have electricity for 5-6 days. How about having captive power plants? How about having green energy where we do not need to depend on a transmission line? So these are areas that I urge the West, the British, the English, should look at that. And please come to our part of the world. I have not come here to pitch about the rest of India. There are many more capable people here who will pitch about the rest of the country. What I've come here is to pitch about my part of the country, and we love our country. But we want you to explore something where there'll be less hostility. There is direct land links. With the Chittagong Hill Port, you have a direct port link. And come with English, come with the language education, come with healthcare, come with tourism, come with green energy, and we will be more than happy to accept you with welcoming arms. We have done it before, and we will do it again. And that is a commitment that we can give you. And this is a commitment which will remain. It has remained for centuries, and it will remain for the decades to come. But you have to take the first step. Belaino Hambai, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to now call upon Mr. Gurdeep Sapal. He's one of our co-hosts, the Samriddha Bharat Foundation. He's also the ex-editor-in-chief of Rajya Sabha TV. So, sir, maybe if you would like to comment on the...
Not editor-in-chief, CEO.
CEO, sorry, beg your pardon. I was given a wrong brief. So, apologies. So, if you want to comment on the pillars of democracy, media being one, and what really is, if you are based in Delhi, what do you think about this India-UK trade deal? Thank you.
Thank you. And I am here from India on this occasion, India at 75. And we are celebrating our independence, and British and Indian relationship actually defines the occasion itself. The story started with Britishers coming to India to rule our country. And today, as it stands, millions of Indians have made Britain their home and are also increasingly having greater share in ruling this country. So this is the story, and we have not done very badly. We have done quite well in last 75 years. We were a very poor country. That time, almost a population of 35 crores and grew up to a nation of almost 140 crores now. But every decade has been very significant. In 50s and 60s, if we laid down the foundation for education, for administration, for the infrastructure to develop this country, in terms of cultural integration, in terms of political integration. In 70s, we had started to emerge as a nuclear power. We started to emerge as a space power. We started to emerge as an agricultural superpower. In 80s decade, we started to emerge as an IT superpower, as a biotechnology power in the world. In 90s, we emerged as a service sector superpower, a global economy. So in 75 years, we've actually moved at quite a good pace with a population of now 140 crore. And with languages, I don't think anybody from Tripura can understand a single word of Malayalam. or vice versa. Or anybody from Malayalam can understand a single word of Kashmir or can understand the food itself. A country of such rich diversity to grow and emerge as a world leader is not a small achievement. But question is what from now? And I'll briefly touch upon that because we have arrived on the world stage. We are in London. It's the global city. We have several cities in India. We have Delhi, we have Chennai, we have Pune, we have Hyderabad, we have Mumbai, we have Bangalore, who are emerging as global cities. But yet, and I am not touching on your point, that cities, there's no more scope to emerge. I am a great votary of decentralized development and administration. Yet, when we aspire to be global superpowers, these cities have to compete with cities like London. And this is what I would urge our Indian diaspora living in London, to shape the government policies back there, to influence the public opinion, to influence the political opinion. What does it require for a city like Bangalore to become or aspire to become a city like London? What are the ingredients to become a great city like London? What should India do? And this public opinion needs to be shaped up that an inclusive society is a prerequisite to become a great city like London. You cannot have a situation where you have sectarian differences, where you have problems with equality, where you people in the Indians in London are living with a proud identity of being British and having pride in their Indian roots. This is a living example of an open society, which is a prerequisite for any big city to become a great city. And this is for next decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. This should be our agenda, that we should go back, influence not just political opinion, not just the government opinion, but also the public opinion, that we need to be inclusive, we need to be equitable, we need a relationship which is not defined by singular identities, but there is a freedom to have multiple identities, there is a freedom to have a happy state of mind where a person thinks and can speak and can act on what they think. This complete synergy is required in India also. So we have done very well in last 75 years, and we should aspire for greater things. We should aspire that in coming decades, our cities, our nation become a global superpower, not just in terms of economy, but in terms of defining the world culture, global culture, and making India a better and much better place to live. That is our message today. Thank you.
Last but not least, we got Mr. Pusparaj. He's also from Samriddha Bharat Foundation. He's going to speak a bit about the academic angle between the India-UK story. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Mics are always a problem everywhere. In India there is this saying that there are many Indians, but kebab mein haddi, So I'm going to be the proverbial kebab mein haddi. It basically means, a bone in a kebab, not supposed to be there. So I'm going to be slightly divergent from what everyone has said. Not completely divergent, slightly. And then I'll sort of open it up to all these questions. Yes. India has historical ties with UK, some natural, some unnaturally forced onto us, but we've sort of matured. Over the years, we have shared value systems, and these value systems, as Gurdeep ji has said, and Rahul has pointed out, and Ruhi has also said this, have enabled us to prosper and grow and emerge as one of the frontline nations of the world. We also have, in the UK alone, a 1.6 million strong diaspora. I mean, I keep saying this in jest, but we are effectively colonizing the world with our population. We are skilled, we gel well with people, we we sort of become one with those nations, and we're sort of welcoming and accommodative and so on and so forth. So I understand that this trade deal is a natural consequence of those historical ties between India and UK. This is extremely important because trade between UK and Britain has dropped by 3%. So I understand that there is a need to do this, but we need to slightly problematize this because, as Rahul said, we need to be objective, we need to be ruthlessly pragmatic. That's the word that you used earlier. And we need to be ruthlessly pragmatic with each other in the spirit of cooperation. What does Britain expect from India? Investment, jobs, and a market. But to really do this, we need to work with all our systems. India has 14 million firms across the country, in the northeast, in Bihar, in Maharashtra, in the east, Odisha, in Karnataka, in Kerala, in Punjab, in Kashmir. We need to ensure that we unleash all these 14 million firms, their strengths, their investment for Britain, for the world, and not just the top 20. Because we have to acknowledge that there has been a profound political shift, an economic shift. 70% of corporate profits now accrue to the top 20 firms, unlike 41% in 2013. This is not sustainable, neither for Britain nor for India. Similarly, we need to invest not just in London here. We need to invest in the north, in the Midlands, in every other region, in Ireland, in Scotland, in every other region apart from London. It's the same story, what Pradyot was saying about India, about Tripura. It's the same thing, it goes both ways, the street is both ways. But to do that, we need to accept and recognize that tolerance and democracy they make business sense. They make business sense because we then welcome immigrants, skilled immigrants. We don't expel them saying that they're Bangladeshis. We don't expel them saying that, you're Polish, and so on and so forth. We need to accept skilled labor because that's the only way we can work and be better together. Similarly, we need to empower every citizen. Are we really empowering every citizen? We had Angela Rayner earlier who said that, she was a young schoolgirl and she sort of came up from nowhere and, from a small working class family, and she sort of became the shadow chancellor, which is fantastic. We want that too. We want Kashmiris to do well. We want people from the northeast to do well. We want people from Bihar to do well, from Maharashtra, from everywhere. We can't do well when we tell people that you are denied education on the basis of the fact that you're wearing a hijab or that you're carrying a mobile phone. You can't do that. We need to be welcoming, open, and free. Similarly, we need to create an environment of tolerance for businesses. HNIs, high net worth individuals, 600% immigration rates have gone up in the last 4 years. This is not good at all. Today, we need tax breaks. We need a friendly business regime. Someone spoke about ease of doing business. I forget who, but it should not take 55 signatures and 138 hours to take one truck to cross one border. That's what happens today. We need this to be liberalized. We need a government which is helping skilled labor find jobs. We need to be finding place. We need to be able to work together. And in this, I know this sounds odd, but both Britain and India can and must work together in creating this. Because this is a policy reform issue, but finally I want to say that this is now a multipolar world. It's no longer, the world has changed, and India has arrived. It is strong, it is prosperous, and we are plural. The West sees India as a regional antidote to China, which is perfectly all right. But it is also important that the West works with India in maintaining, safeguarding, and furthering the shared values that we hold dear. Only then can we continue to prosper together. I'm going to stop here, and I'm now going to open up the floor for some questions. I think we have a question there.
Arif Zaman, Bloomsbury Institute. I just want to ask this question, I mean, perhaps to Rahul, but indeed anybody, because all of you on the panel have given such a rich contribution. My question is around, Rahul, you talked about timing. We have this tyranny of timing, don't we, in terms of both the European context, which right now, this week, you know, we're at a point of real tension between London and Brussels with the Northern Ireland Protocol. And so the EU-UK relationship, Brexit might be over, the fallout certainly isn't. And so we have the regional dynamic pressure from this direction. But let's also look at South Asia. Right now, today, this week, the economy that's at the point of perhaps collapse, Sri Lanka. Yeah? And we know we have also other challenges across that region as well. Yeah? So the regional pressures are actually acute right now in Europe with the UK. Remembering also in the UK, 3 of the 4 devolved administrations now in the UK are not in the ruling party in the UK. Yeah? That pressure, and equally in South Asia. So my question is simply this. Given what I've just said, how much of what sometimes is referred to as the 3 M's do we have in terms of the room for maneuver, the room for mobilization of ideas, of stakeholders, and indeed movement on all the things that you've been talking about, given some of the constraints that we have on the regional side, both in Europe and South Asia?
Yeah, you know, it's a very good question that you raised, especially regarding Sri Lanka. And I would like to bring in what Mr. Manoj Jha, Honorable Member of Parliament, said, and our speaker before that. The idea is that we depend too much on systems. You would need to have people-to-people contact. And when you make investments, let's look at core areas, which does not necessarily benefit the individual, the firm, but benefits the people. You look at education, you look at healthcare, you look at sustainable green energy or tourism. I'm just giving, there are many more aspects to it. Once you have that, the cultural civilizational bond, the language is already there, but these bonds then come to fore. Now, regarding Brussels and London, we are well aware that the fallout of Brexit is going to happen more and more. But that's a problem that is happening right here. Now, I'll give you an example of Sri Lanka. My honorable CEO of the Rajya Sabha TV, former CEO of Rajya Sabha TV, Sri Lanka is a classic case which no democracy should go at. Too much of nationalism, the debate on who should eat what food, who should wear what in school, the diversion from actual economic problems to issues which were probably not relevant to employment, to economy, and the emergence of a strong leader who actually said that we decimated an enemy, you need a strong leader, this is what you need, and this is what you're going to do. And then the shift from complete, to entire shift to the farming system. And then with the hit of the COVID, Sri Lanka has collapsed. Sri Lanka also collapsed because they gave away their natural resources, their ports, to investment firms. I will not name the country, but we all know who we are referring, which country we are referring to. And that'll happen in Africa as well. And that'll happen in Bangladesh as well. And that'll happen in parts of Bhutan as well. And I hope not, it does not happen in our country. That's why we need responsible democracies to come from the West and invest in India, and we would do the same here. Otherwise, when you leave that vacuum, you will see existing neighbors who have far more resources coming into our backyard. And that's why I keep on coming back to the Northeast. The Northeast is the most vulnerable part of India geographically. And that's why we need shared democracies from the West to come and invest there. Because otherwise, there are elements which were there before. If you look at our insurgent movements and activities in the last 70 years, everybody had a route either in Myanmar or went for training to China. So that's why it is extremely important for the West to come, democracies in the West to come and invest in core areas And we would also, we talk about how many Indians are there in UK? 1.6 million. Many of them would be nurses from our part of the world, from Manipur. They're not just from Kerala. But because we don't look a certain type, we are probably identified as people from China or Vietnam or Thailand, because we don't look a stereotype Indian. So it is very important for us to sensitize you as well, that India is not about a particular face or a particular dress or a particular food. There's so much of diversity. Your question is well taken. And I think that we'll need to create this with having more human-to-human contact and coming into core areas where political activities do not disrupt this human-to-human and civilizational approach. That's my...
Thank you. I'll just add one point to what Pradyot has already said. When you asked me to speak on, you said largest and oldest. I mean, these are not two adjectives only, largest and oldest. The second part is democracy. So one of the important things that the largest democracy or the oldest one has to preserve democratic ethos. So if there are images which are disturbing to public health, public sensitivity, we should be able to correct it, whether in UK or in India. That's why we did not mind very much when we saw the British Prime Minister riding on a bulldozer in Ahmedabad. I was just worried कि उनका वैसे भी बाल बिखरा रहता है. It shouldn't be more than that. Thank you. That's
Thank you, thank you. All right. Is there a mic outside?
Thank you for the question. Timing is tremendously important, but I would argue that we should see it in terms of the window is closing or the window is opening. So both sides in terms of timing. Where the window is closing, I think, is on the India-UK relationship, for the simple reason that I believe that we have really less than 12 months to deliver on the relationship, to deliver on legacy issues between India and the UK. 12 months later, India will focus on the next general election, at least the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party will be doing that, and the focus will be on winning the May 2024 general elections in India. So there is really a 12-month gap. Where these deliverables can take place. I was interested to hear Angela Rayner say that she could be Deputy Prime Minister in 1 to 2 years. The UK is also going through that because there could be elections within a year. So I would argue strongly that on the India-UK front, we have 12 months. That's it. Beyond that, it's over. So if we can deliver, both countries can deliver a free trade agreement, even an interim free trade agreement by the 22nd of October, and 2 or 3 key issues on defense, you'd have ticked the boxes. You have then put the direction of travel. May not be the pace of travel, but the direction of travel. The next 12 months are critical for the India-UK relationship. But where the window is opening, and I want to sort of broaden that out onto South Asia, I believe strongly is on the India-Pakistan relationship, where we have today a convergence of interests for both India and Pakistan. We have on the Pakistani side a new Prime Minister who in the past has been keen to engage with India. We have an army chief who will retire at the end of November. On the Indian side, I think again I think there should be an outreach in that respect, again to set the direction of travel, because if Pakistan's elections are going to be held towards the end of the year and not immediately, then there is the next few months to bring the high commissioners back into the countries to start trade sort of talks and move forward on that. So I think there the window is opening. It's up to India to move forward, but soon the window will close there also. So I think you have to look at whether the window is opening or closing.
Yeah, any other questions? Neeraj?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that was quite insightful. But one thing that I took from all of you is we inherited a much divided, much impoverished India from the British, and then we built it from scratch. As someone who is growing up in this India today, which is slightly more divided and also on the path of radicalization, how do you imagine the role of media, civil society, the political class playing a role in de-radicalizing Indian youth? Because that would be the basis of anything be it democracy, investment, business, or whatever factors that you talk about. Without addressing those divisions, do you envision that there is a path for progress in today's India?
Thanks. I'm going to ask both Manojji and Gurdeepji to intervene, but briefly, just 2 minutes. And Ruhi also wants to intervene on this. All right, fair enough. I'll do that. But I just want to make an interjection here. I think the political cultivation of emotions, reshaping, re-engineering hearts and minds, creating a constitutional consciousness, in that sense, the state and political parties have sort of failed. And they sort of gave up this task post the Nehruvian years. This is a central challenge that all of us face, and he's absolutely right. This is fundamental to everything, and social media is one small element of this. The challenge is that I think that political parties as a whole, I think this is especially for the three of you, and maybe Ruhi can join in, journalists and political parties. But the thing is that political parties have become purely, Gurdeepji and Pradyotji, political parties have become purely electoral machines, right? And on the other side, you have a force that is constantly working in reshaping, re-engineering hearts and minds. So just to add on to your question, I'm just complementing that. Maybe one and then.
I'll pick up from what Pushparaj said. Political parties have become electoral machine. I wish we had become. Our opponent does both the jobs very beautifully, functioning like a machine and working on the machine. So, they do it beautifully. We have been talking about it since the time we have arrived in UK. I'll just tell you one thing, and it has a bit of anecdotal historical value. One day, Lord Buddha, asked his favorite disciple, why are Vajjayans doing so well? Vajjayan assembly, Vajjayan dynasty. Anand said, I don't know much about it. Buddha said, till the time in their assemblies, they talk freely and fearlessly. They shall never decline. What I again pick up from Pushparaj, post-Nehruvian India, our assemblies, whether parliament or state assemblies, we stopped discussing things freely and fearlessly. As a result of which, that the elephant which was in the corner of the room, almost dozing off, suddenly has come in the middle of the room and has occupied everything, including sofa and dining table and everything. Now, that's why when you ask this question, it's a very difficult proposition. We need to work together. This one thing we have been talking every moment when we are here in UK and in India. There is no Dolo 65 kind of solution that you are having 50 fever. It has to be a long-term engagement, not looking only at elections. Elections are important. Political parties, I have said this, we wake up, not BJP, we wake up generally when the election dates are announced. And when we know there is a date of nomination, then we go for candidate selection. And after the election results are out, someday we mourn, Muharram karte hain, and then we are business as usual. I wish to just reiterate that the engagement has to be multiple. It has to be defending history. It has to be questioning myths, because in India, in last few years, हमारे देखते देखते myths have occupied the space of history. What's happening? Myths have become history, and history has to struggle every day, 24/7. That look, I'm better than myth. I'm right. Now this has to be done on a war footing by everyone, and don't leave this to politicians. They'll mess up. They'll mess up. Thank you.
Well, your question is interesting, but let's go back a little into history. When this Republic of India was born, and in 50 and before that in 47, we got independence. This was the bloodiest transfer of power, not with the Britishers, but among ourselves. 20 lakh people, the records say, were killed in partition. 20 lakh, and the real figure may be multiple, both sides. there were competing ideologies then also. There was Muslim League, there was Congress ideology, and there was Hindu Mahasabha, which was stronger force that time. Muslim League won its case and had a different nation. We had a different nation. From that bloodbath, we progressed on to become a secular country, a country which gave, for the first time in history of India, since it was articulated by Buddha and then by in 500, 600 years back from Kabir and Bhakti movement, for the first time, there was a constitutional guarantee of equality. For the first time, we started speaking in our preamble of dignity. The Constitution ensures dignity to everyone. And when this change happened, there was a sense of victory. The party, and largely it was Congress party, tried to implement that constitution and did bring about a lot of change. But in process of bringing that change, somewhere we lost the discourse that we need to reiterate every day, every week, every month, these basic values which made India what India is today. And you are right there. Since there was the focus was on governing, on delivering the fruits of independence through governance, we forgot to discuss these primary issues. And this is not the job of only political parties. We are speaking as Indians here. We are in Britain. We are all representatives of India. So we will not talk about one party or two parties. But the values that we speak are enshrined in Constitution. Those values need to be reiterated. Those values need to be taken back to people. It's again a fight. Every few decades we have to fight this battle. And everyone, each one of us, be it media, be it common citizen, be it corporates who want a better working environment, be it the political parties, they have to come together and fight it. There's no shortcut, as Manoj said. There cannot be a shortcut to this. But certainly, even the philosophy which was of Hindu Mahasabha was forced to adopt and adapt to the constitutional values in our constitution. Still, we have to force everyone that these are the basic values. These need to be honored. These need to be cherished.
Just a small thing, because all three of us have been in media. I was running the Northeast Today for 13 years. We have, people have just forgotten there is a media which is still reporting free and fair news, and it's in this room. It's right there. News Laundry. And, I think we should acknowledge that, it's not that every media has been silenced. It is just that the media which needs the money to be all over the television is being financed, right? So now, let's look at the history. I mean, there is no qualms that whenever you've had a powerful leader, barring Nehru, whenever you've had a powerful leader, you've always tried to curtail free speech. Whether we like it or we don't like it, it has happened in India. There was a movie called Kissa Kursi Ka, which was banned, right? It was not banned by the people who are in power today. So this has always been there. And what has happened? History has also taught us that those people who have tried to impose this have been successful. People looked at the division of Pakistan and won an election. Somebody looked at Ghar ke andar jaake mara hai and they won an election. But that formula can only take you to a certain point. Beyond that, the country that we know has enough strengths within its own. Like, our panelists have said, I'm in London and I will not say anything which will embarrass my country. But the fact is that the country has enough mechanisms and we have enough independent media right there. And why don't we, I can understand a person who does not have the funds or money to subscribe for good news. But I have seen these guys from WhatsApp universities, I've seen my aunts, some of my elders in my family sending me these WhatsApp ki Qutub Minar ye tha, ye tha, ye tha. They have the money. I've seen graduates in Harvard University sending me all this. I've seen guys in London who are doing this. Why can't you pay for good news? The fact is, we have become used to free news and news which makes us happy. Now, this jingoism has to end. In a democracy, there are 4 pillars of democracy. I need not say what they are. Judiciary is one, media is one as well. The problem is that we have left the power too much in the hands of the politician. And to counter that, you will need to ask tough questions. You will need to support free media. And the flip side of digital media, social media, is not just negative news. We see a lot of people who are coming up with positive news. And there is another worry which we need to look at. Like the ruling party may have trolls, the opposition party has also started creating its trolls, so they do not look at an independent point of view which criticizes their leader. So, in absence of intolerance on both sides, the only thing which suffers is freedom of independent media. So let's look at the BBC model. Let's look at models which have existed here. And let's start working on a mechanism which actually ensures that at least we don't become a propaganda machine for or against any government. That is not healthy. So that, I think, is the very important takeaway.
Thank you. Some very, very excellent points there. So I'm just going to take it a little bit forward from someone who works in the media and on the media. I think it's incumbent on all of us to spot propaganda. And that is what politicians love to lead with, especially the ones who are in power. And it's not very difficult to spot propaganda because it stands on 3 legs. The first one is disinformation. And to transmit disinformation, you need friendly media. And so you see that the government, which is the biggest advertiser in India, uses that to pressurize media to do what they want them to do. And there is a political economy that needs to be sustained. So that is something that, watch out for that. You'll see the number of people who are buying stakes into the media. You'll see who they are, where their ideologies lie. You'll also see where the government is advertising. That will give you a good indication of where the news is coming from. And to spot disinformation, you need to look at the other pillar, which is isolation, which is done by stopping dissenting voices, which is done by cutting out anyone who wants to raise a contradictory issue or challenge what has been said. And this is where you'll see the other media that is growing in India and is trying to fight truth to power faces a lot of what is the next pillar, intimidation. So you have ED or the CBI going and invading their offices. You have trolls threatening people with bodily harm. You have all kinds of accusations being made, and I won't even get into the name calling. That's the least of the worries. But that happens to people who want to make that point. So when you start looking at an issue, and I'll take an excellent example of the Russian war and Russian propaganda, but you can apply this to wherever you are, whatever state, whatever country, whatever issues burning at that moment. Look at the way disinformation has been transmitted by Russia. It uses state-sponsored media to do that. It is against anyone who does not abide by that. So it's trying to isolate whether it's people, whether it's media, and that's done by saying the West is conspiring against Russia, BBC is lying, Twitter is, a place where all lies are said, Meta has vested interest, so they're cutting them off, so isolating all these dissenting voices that are challenging the discourse of the state. And when that doesn't happen, intimidation comes into it. So all the people that were protesting against the war were picked up, put behind bars, and like I said, that's an excellent example to look at because I think there's a unanimous vote that Russia is using propaganda. This is a propaganda war, and everyone agrees that this is wrong. And if you start looking at this within your own states, within your own issues, within your own countries, you'll see that you'll find similar examples. And I think that is when, as youngsters, as public, as people of different political hues, it's a good way to raise these issues and shout propaganda right there, because it is built on disinformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very grateful to the panel. So I think we have come up. Okay, one last question, very quick, 1 minute, yeah, because we are running out of time.
My name is Sushant Singh. I'm a student union president of the SOAS University. So in addition to what you have already said, sir, I have only 2 questions. I'll be very precise and keeping my stand clear that I'm worried that how I can contribute as a youth. So first question is that, as I read in a report, that approximately 70,000 Indian students in January to July 2021, I'm talking about, in the peak of the COVID, they came to London for the studies. I am assuming it will be more than lakh, and this is the height of the pandemic. So what I'm trying to say is that approximately 1 lakh Indian students are coming every year here. Either they are going to settle it here, majority of them, or they are going to go back. How are we going to, if we need to, I think we need to, how are we going to organize them, speak to them and coordinate with them for the betterment of the India, which is we need to deal with the opponent. The second question is, with the sir, he has been talking about the region. I'll take that argument a little further, which is towards the communities, which is the communities also feel a little bit left out, which is the OBC communities or the SC communities. My question is very simple, that if we see the trend that the internet is free, that everybody's taking the clapping, oh, internet is free. Internet is not free. You are hijacking the mind. So my point is, you're giving free internet and cheap mobile phone, and you are going into their head and making them believe what they are doing is right, and this kind of polarization happening. So when Manoj sir rightly pointed out, we need to go back in the history, and we need to do a one-to-door, door-to-door. Now I can say WhatsApp one-to-one. So how are we going to deal with that? We know this is happening, and how are we going to deal with this? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Very quick, 1 minute response. Yeah.
I just wanted to answer the first part of the question as well. Of course, Indian students are they are the second largest community of students, international students here. And I was teaching at LSE, and I still do, but I was teaching during the COVID pandemic. And I can tell you, it wasn't easy at all. People spent lakhs, 20 lakh fee, another 10 lakhs to live here for that year. And they didn't get to go to university. They were suffering from being in isolation. They couldn't work to pay the bills, because people come with the expectation that they'll work here and then, survive on the earnings that they make. But also when the second wave broke out, they had families in India that were simply going through hell. So many family members that were in hospitals, bills shot up, and people's entire savings were wiped out. And it was a very, very, very difficult time for students here. There wasn't much support politically. There are student organizations here, NISAO is one of them, that did brilliant work during that time. But there was not much support in terms of finances or in terms of mental health that came from India. In fact, at the beginning of war, I was at the Ukraine border covering the student crisis there. And it was devastating to see the way these students, and there are thousands and thousands of them, and it was shocking that India did not even take that into account when the talks of the war were happening to evacuate them or to even warn them. They were caught completely off guard. And the experiences they shared were absolutely harrowing, to the least. So I think there needs to be pressure politically on India to do some sort of a deal with these countries where Indian students are going to safeguard their interests. Absolutely. Ukraine was, it's an excellent example to see that we haven't done this and we need to do this. But something like this could happen just in any part of the world. And India needs to politically set up some sort of a channel with those countries to safeguard the interest of the students.
So, Sushant, just very quickly, you said that there are people like you, you're the Students' Union president, right? There are lots of you like here. The entire point of Samruddha Bharat setting up Bridge India was to be a platform for people like you who are empowered, can do this. We can't do this job for you. We have established a platform. Take charge of that. Start mobilizing, start educating, start organizing. We are the bridge between you and the political parties. We will get things done. You know, whatever you guys need to do, ask us. Whatever we can ask of you to help us, we will ask you. So those platforms are there. Bridge India is there for this.
Yeah, just wanted to say, since your question was at me as well. First of all, I would like to meet you after this program because I want to meet the students. We formed my political party a year ago, and 80% of the people who got elected are below the age of 30, 35. In fact, we have some who are 26, 27, and I'm probably one of the oldest members in the entire election. So there is hope, so let me say that. But I would like to talk to you on the first question. The second question, which you directly asked about other communities, you said OBC and SC. Let me tell you very clearly, I am a Tiprasa, I am a ST myself. अब ये नहीं बोलिए कि महाराजा है तो ST नहीं होता है. We are STs. We are STs. I'm very proud ST, Tiprasa, very proud. Now I'll tell you, we've raised a demand called Greater Tipra Land. A lot of people are here from Telangana. We have raised a demand for a separate state called Tipra Land. Now you're talking about misinformation. Our community has been said that, oh, but these are secessionists. We've asked it within the Constitution of India. But there was a propaganda calling the entire movement anti-India. The fact was that we were always within the Constitution of India. We still are, and we're still raising that demand because we have a constitutional right. Otherwise, you make a law in the Constitution, except for Tripura, every state can demand it. We will abide by it. But till the time it is there in the Constitution, we have every right to ask. But there is a counter-propaganda, which you are talking about, where you basically, you say internet is not free. Absolutely right. Internet is not free. Internet is given to people, and as I said, WhatsApp University. There's the counter-propaganda, which then is a series of disinformation. That, oh, these are Pakistan lobby. Abhinandan is a Pakistan lobby. Maybe somebody is a China lobby. Somebody is an anti-India lobby. Now this information keeps on going on and on. But that's where educated students like you, who have conviction, who may differ, but yet is ready to have a debate and not a duel. India is not about annihilation of one language. India is about assimilation. As we end this conversation, I want India to be a salad bowl, right? What is a melting point? A melting point is you lose your identity, and you become one fondue, right? But a salad bowl is where you may be a cherry tomato, you may be a lettuce, you may be a jalapeno, whatever. You retain your original taste, but when mixed together, you taste wonderful. We retain our culture, and yet we are one as a country. Now, for that to be countered, we need young people like you, all the young people here, and of course, the octogenarians to lead us as well. Because this is not the India I would like to see in the next 10, 15 years. This India has to change, and this India cannot change with only the politician. It has to change with the civil society. And people like you have a huge role to play, and we hope that you will do so in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now call upon Kiran from the 1928 Institute, who is one of the co-sponsors of this event. She'll just give a very quick intro.
Thank you. I'll keep it very brief. It's been a pleasure to actually hear the panel speak today. It's been really insightful. So I'll just briefly tell you a bit about who we are. So I'm one of the co-founders from the 1928 Institute. We're a spin-out from the University of Oxford that aims to research and represent the British Indian community. So we do a lot of engagement and host events and debates, but also looking at providing empirical evidence. So actually there was a lot of food for thought about planning and our strategic vision about what we want to go out and plan. And my background is social science. So I'm the main researcher in the team, and I have many thoughts on how we can strategically pick up these ideas and provide evidence and engage the community here in the UK so that we can strengthen the relationship with India and provide and really strengthen the relationship that the communities here want to see with the communities there, and bring out issues such as culture, values in health, and addressing issues as like climate change. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. I won't say much more. Thank you.
So yeah, one final round of applause for our speakers, and thank you very much. Yes, certainly. you. You can keep your badges, you can turn them in. We start sharp at 9:15 tomorrow. And we once again thanks the 1928 and the Samudra Foundation. Thank you very much. Thank you.